Today we are going to learn how to make hard-boiled eggs so we can take them on the run. Lots of people don't know how to cook, or they say they don't have time, and this is one of the most simple things to do if you just have a couple ideas. So here, we need eggs, and you'll hear me often talk about making organic food because it's more nutritious and it has less garbage, because ultimately we are what we ate. So if these were not processed with all kinds of stuff, then that's going to be better. So these came from Happy Chickens. So first thing I'm gonna do with my pot, and I have a top here, is I'm going to take 3 eggs. 1, 2, 3. I place them very gently in the pot that does not have any water. So that way I can walk over to my sink, and I am going to put just enough water so it covers the eggs completely, but I don't need a lot of extra water, and I'm using a pot that's just barely enough. So there you go, there's the level, right? If they roll, they kind of just come out, but they are basically covered. Then I'm going to put it on the stove, and I am going to put it on high on the burner that just covers the size of the pot, right? Okay, then I'm gonna go back over here where I left my top. I'm gonna put the top on it, and then I am going to set the timer, and you could use a separate egg timer if you had one, for 13 minutes. And the reason that I do that, a couple of things here that I've done. Notice that I didn't boil water and then put eggs in, because you can burn yourself, right? I put them in when they're cold. Now, I have made eggs regularly for a while, so I know that at about 6 or 7 minutes, the water is gonna boil, and that is going to leave it boiling for about 5.5 to 6 minutes, and that would make hard-boiled eggs that are a little bit runny on the inside. If you want them harder, I would say put it on for 15 minutes, or at the end of the time, after the timer goes off and they've been boiling for 5.5 or 6 minutes, then I will dump out the hot water and put some cold water on top and let them sit there. But in this case, if I wanted them to be a little bit harder, I could just leave them in the hot water for an extra few minutes, and they would continue to cook even though they weren't on the burner. So there we go, that's how we get started. And we're just gonna wait for that time to count down, and then we will have hard-boiled eggs, and we'll check back. Okay, so the buzzer has gone off at 13 minutes. So first thing I'm gonna do is turn off the timer, because it drives me nuts if I don't. It is insistent. And I'm gonna turn off my burner. Now, I had said a moment ago that if you wanted them harder, because these are gonna be just barely cooked and they'll be a little bit runny. So one thing that I could do if I wanted them harder would be just set it off to the side. They're still in very hot water. I mean, it just stopped boiling, right? And I could put the timer on for 2 more minutes, but I'm making these for my wife to take to school. So this is the way she likes it. So what I do now is I take the top off and I walk over to the sink and I dump out the hot water. Dump, 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 very carefully. And I don't have another hand because I'm holding the camera with it. And then I am going to put some cold water in there, and that way they can cool down and stop cooking, right? And a trick that you can do if you want to make the water cold, because I guarantee that right now if I stick my finger in there, the heat of the eggs already heats up the water. So sometimes, look at that, we'll learn how to make that. That is a pulled pork, but that's what I made for dinner tonight. That's a different day's episode. So I will often go into the ice and dump a bunch of ice in with my eggs, and that will help it to cool down the water faster and stop the cooking process. And that, my peeps, is how you make hard-boiled eggs. So cool beans. Have fun with that and let me know what you think. Thank you very much for joining in. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.